when I read it, my brother, I was appalled. Everyone else in the office who read it was taken aback. People were shocked. I mean in colloquial terms. I shared it obviously with my comrade in TUC in terms of not the actual letter, but the essence of the correspondence, and he too was taken aback. Everybody in the labor movement, when this information was shared, including our secretariat, our staff, was taken aback by this.
The CABSET must be reflecting the mindset of the administration. The CABSET cannot and will not, with a government letterhead and the position that is held at that office, reflect a personal position. Even after, I'm sure, the PM would have intervened.
Now, in March of 2024, the Public Workers Union passed a resolution, that is, in one of its executive meetings, to change the individual membership contributions to $20 or 1% of basic salary, or whichever is greater. Now, before the membership increase, those whose salaries were capped at $1,500 paid $15, whereas those whose salaries were between $1,501 and $2,500 paid $20, with the highest dues being paid by those earning $2,501 and above. Now, the union dues increase has also become the subject of the upcoming PWU internal election, with one of the contenders, Mr. Fimber Thomas, an Orlando Romaine endorsed candidate, promising to reverse this increase if he and his slate are given the nod by the membership of the union. This increase, however, has garnered the attention of Grenada's Secretary to the Cabinet, Ms. Carvelette, who in November of 2024 demanded that the union provide an explanation as to the basis for the increase. Lett, in correspondence to the union, implied that no consultations were held with the rank and file of the membership. Of course, many of those members work with the government of Grenada, informing them of this increase. The union disagreed. This issue all came to a head last week when the Public Workers Union raised alarm bells concerning the impact that a lack of union dues are having on the proper functioning of the organization. However, in a press release issued by the government of Grenada on Friday, February 21st, 2025, Lett said, quote, "The government of Grenada has expressed its commitment to honoring the union's request and ensuring that the revised salary deductions are implemented. As part of the implementation process, all relevant government departments have been notified, and members are encouraged to acknowledge receipt by signing, in parentheses, yes or no, and returning the circular to the Cabinet Office no later than the 24th of February 2025 to facilitate the deductions and payments by month end February 2025. The correspondence goes on to say, quote, "For further inquiries, members are encouraged to contact the Cabinet Office." And here to make sense of this issue are Mr. Brian Grimes, the current president of the Public Workers Union, as well as Senator Andre Lewis, who is the president of the Grenada Trades Union Council, as well as the labor representative in the upper house of Grenada's parliament. Gentlemen, good morning and welcome to the Bub Report.
Good morning. Good morning. Can you hear me?
Senator Lewis, yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Good morning,
Mr. Grimes.
Sure. Good morning.
Yes, very well. It's good having you both. But Grimes, Mr. Grimes, I do want to start with the genesis and justification behind union dues increase. Of course, as a member of my union here, the faculty union, as well as a former member of the Technical and Allied Workers Union in Grenada, I do remember having to pay union dues. Now, let us talk about the genesis and justification behind this specific union dues increase that got the attention of the Secretary to the Cabinet, who incidentally is also a former member of the Public Workers Union.
Yes.
Mr. Grimes.
Good morning again to your listeners, your viewers, to yourself, Dr. Bob, and obviously to my fellow panelists, the esteemed comrade Andrew Lewis. I'm very happy to be on, but the first thing I want to do before I get into your question is to really applaud the leadership of Mr. Andre Lewis, Comrade Andre Lewis, in this whole matter, because the Grenada Public Workers Union, based on his intervention, at no point felt isolated in this matter. It is really was an unprovoked, unprecedented attack on our institution, but the quintessential quality of the trade union movement is solidarity. And I just want to publicly thank Mr. Andre Lewis in terms of using his office as the head of the Caribbean Congress of Labor and the head of the Grenada Trade Union Council in intervening on this matter, which is an ongoing matter as we speak. So yes, to your question about the dues increase, our dues have been the same for well over 30 years, 30 something years, right? A long, long time. One can understand. Let me just put it in context. The last 6 years or so, within the framework of negotiations with government, public officers would have seen at minimum a 25% increase. I just give you the straight figures, not compounded. So 444 and 445 respectively, last 6 years. Now, again, I'm saying in the last 30 years, our dues have not moved. In recent time, we have seen that our organization, along with other trade unions in the country, ensured through advocacy, through legal intervention, that workers within the public service are assured, established workers are assured of a pension. That intervention caused the state to have to pay at least $75 million in back pay, and going forward in perpetuity have to pay pensions to establish public officers. Good. This is significant. Now, we have ensured that public officers can rest easy, whether from permanent secretary go down to the lowest level of worker who are established, so that they can rest easy when the time for retirement comes. Now, I'm speaking about the fact that the state classified this as the biggest movement of cash from one party to the next, probably in the history of the country. The union was central in that. Guess what happened? The only thing the union got back from that, one worker came and said, look, $500 in an envelope to our institution to go to our coffers. Now, the greater point I'm making here is that we are doing tremendous work for our membership, but we need to change the financial model. We have over 10 workers at the Grenada Public Workers Union, correct? And they have to get increases matched with what happens within the public service. You have to understand that everything is going up. Stationery is going up. Good toiletries are going up. We have to ensure that the services that we provide to our members are optimal and at the highest level. So because of that, we engaged, right, at our AGM, the highest decision-making body. Article 8 of the PW Constitution speaks to that, with our members, fully queried, right? And we had a strong, robust discussion about this. The treasurer, the whole board put forward the numbers to the members. In fact, every year we do an audit by a professional firm. Panelker Foster is of recent vintage. With that, the numbers were put forward to the workers, and it was an opportune time. A member came forward with a resolution which was brought before us in a timely fashion before the AGM, placed in the booklet, and we had discussions, and the members voted practically unanimously based on all the arguments and the facts and the data put forward to ensure that our 94-year-old institution does not limp to 100, but goes forward on its feet very strong in the name of the continuation of the protection of public officers and statutory bodies in this country.
Let me bring in Comrade Lewis here. I still call him Comrade Lewis because, of course, you were the deputy. You were the general secretary of TAO when I was in the union. But Mr. Lewis, in respect of this issue, in respect of the executive arm of government, the secretary to the executive arm of government, a constitutional position. Demanding a consultation, demanding to know the basis upon which the union arrived at the decision to engage in the business of fee hikes. Now, I'm aware that also TAU represents workers that are employed with the government of Grenada. Did you also have to confront with this issue? Or is this the first time you're seeing this?
Thank you very much, Dr. Bob, Comrade Bob, and my dear comrade Grimes. Permit me, although you did that already, Dr. Bob, but let me just start by extending sympathy to the families of the late Robert Robbie Robinson, a stalwart in the labor movement. We extend our deepest condolences to the family, his wife and Randall and all the other surviving members. And to also echo your sentiment and sympathies to the family of the late Lyden Ramdani, one who contributed tremendously to the development of Grenada, and who just didn't, he walked the walk, right? In other words, during the period of the Grenada Revolution, as he clearly has identified himself, when he could have taken the quote unquote, probably the easy way out, he actually served practically in the government of Grenada, recognizing the importance of what the revolution stood for, trying to bring betterment for Grenada. And for this, for the both colleagues, we extend our deepest sympathies and salute you for your contributions that you all have made. Now, to the issue that you have raised, this is the very first time that I've come across like a matter like this. I can tell you, in the Caribbean, it has sent shockwaves, because for us, we need to put this thing in proper perspective. I know that the signature came from the CABSEC, but the CABSEC is representing the government. And the government as an employer, and the government as a philosophical position on unions. And this has the implications of creating a dangerous precedent that can lead to further industrial unrest, because trade unions must not and will not accept these interferences into our internal affairs. I have seen that what came out from the government, and I'm going to keep saying the government, what came from the government in terms of the latest press release, took on the role of public relations officer of the Grenada Public Workers Union, and asking members of the union to contact the government if they need any clarity on issues on a union matter, speaks about the direct interference in the internal operations of a bona fide and legitimate organization, an organization that has its founding in the Grenada Constitution, because Section 11 of the Constitution recognizes the right of each individual to belong to organizations and groupings, and in particular trade unions. I'm just paraphrasing here. And this is not a case where Jews were not taken out before. The union dues of the Public Workers Union members of that bargaining unit has always been taken out. And the question that must arise is why now? And because my information is that the last dues that the Public Workers Union had received was in November of 2024. Although the new structure was supposed to take effect from January 2025. So it begs into question, what is the objective with the particular timing now of this engagement, this involvement, this interference in the internal affairs of the union? And we have to guard this. Could you imagine, that the members of the public or the trade union seeking to get information or question other organizations when they took their decisions based on the Constitution? So it is a dangerous precedent.
Well, could you imagine if Dr. Mitchell, former Prime Minister Dr. Keith Mitchell, did that? What the current government would be saying?
Well, I know. Well, I know. And you see, Mr. Lailan Ramdani, which stood out to me because it was at the stadium when he made that address, and you brought it back, and it came to me.
Mm-hmm.
In his engagement with the population on February 7th, I think it was 2023, 2024, 2023. Things 24, whatever year it was, spoke about the need for tolerance and the need to have engagement with people with different views or differences on a national macro level. What we can't see an employer. How does an employer, most of the government, and let's not single out the CABSEC. Yes, it came from a pen, but the CABSEC must be reflecting the mindset of the administration. The CABSEC cannot and will not, with a government letterhead and the position that is held at that office, reflect a personal position. Even after, I'm sure, the PM would have intervened, even if he knew about it before. Let me make this point. But after the General Secretary of the Caribbean Congress of Labour, Comrade Michael Anaset, and myself as President of the Caribbean Congress of Labour, engaged directly in a discussion in Barbados during the heads of government meeting. And the assurance was given that this matter was resolved. And therefore, it was very disconcerting to have seen their release that came out the day after, asking members to petition, a petition from the government to determine whether yes or no. It is one thing to say, yes, I have seen a correspondence that you sent out. But it's another thing to ask, yes or no. This is a vote, and this is a petition, similar to what was done before. Petition to bring the union to its knees, right? Engaging in salary negotiations, which today workers have turned around and recognized that we ought to have got more. The point I'm making here, Dr. Bob, I want to use this opportunity to appeal to our members, all workers, right across the board, that we must support whichever political party we want, and that's okay. Mm-hmm. But when it comes to bread and butter issues, because without the finances, the organization, the unions will not be able to deliver the quality and the level of services that are required. Mm-hmm. We have to go to the courts. We were lucky, and hats off to the firms that did not charge us to take the pension matter to court. But it costs a lot. The Technical and Allied Workers Union had to spend close to $100,000 to address the issue of the right of workers to take matters to court that the Privy Council ruled against. And we know that it costs a lot. There are professional services that need to be rendered to our members, and our members deserve the best service that is possible. And therefore, we have to find the resources to provide those services. So I want to call on all of us to ensure that we do not make this based on party politics. But even if we support a political party that farms the administration, we must take what we call a bread and butter industrial relations approach to this. And I found it very instructive. That the Minister for Labour referred you to the office of the Prime Minister.
Yeah. When was the last increase for the union dues increase for TAU?
Well, our structure is 1.5% of your salary, or $15, whichever is greater. Because we recognize that rather than every 5 years, every 10 years, you may have to go back to members, that you apply a percentage. You apply a percentage so that people pay according to their income. And that's what we have been doing. So that our structure is 1.5% of your basic salary, or $15, whichever is greater.
So you've not, in this period, since the ascension of this administration into public service, you've not had an increase. And I'm sure, is this an issue that
No, we
you've
have had
had to
an
deal
increase
with?
because every time there is an
So
increase in
you've had
salary.
an increase.
No, every time there's an increase in salary, there will be an increase in the amount to be deducted because there is a formula of 1.5% of your basic salary. So let us say, for instance, if you are making, let us say $2,000, and I'm going to use some figures for easy conversation. If you're making $2,000, 1.5% would be $30. Yes? If your salary moved from 2,000 to 4,000, then it will now be $60, 1.5% of your salary. Because you pay according to your income. Basic salary. It is not on, I want to repeat, it is not on overtime. It is not on allowances. And you know why we had to do that too, Dr. Bob? As part of the employer's strategy to try to weaken TAU in particular over the many years. Our dues remain unchanged. I mean, people are paying what, $5 for years, $2.50 for years. We had what we call a retroactive levy on our standing negotiations, and companies use that against us to indicate that we were holding back on negotiations, trying to force workers to agree because we wanted the retroactive to build up to get. And we have taken away this, right? So we have taken away that. So all that workers pay is a 1.5% on their dues.
So you would, for these increases, the cabinet secretary never wrote to TAU.
No, they don't have to because they know what the structure of our dues are. They know what the structure of our dues are, and I will hate to believe, or hate to even contemplate, any employer doing this. I mean, you see, Dr. Bob, the question must arise. So why? Because that can't make sense. To me, it can't make sense, right? To me, it can't make sense. But those who are behind it may have a bigger picture that they are looking at, right? And we must look at the horizon and the storm clouds and the dark clouds and the environment that we are operating under, right? Because what this may very well do, and I hope it is not done because we'll have to respond to it very, very firmly, that for any employer in any of the other unions to seek to get involved in the internal affairs of the organization. And more so, we know that finance cripples organizations, especially service organizations. Don't forget about the embargo against Cuba. Don't forget that the weapon that countries use and those who want to try to cripple economies is that of financial support and assistance. Yes? So don't forget that. So, I mean, it begs into question. It begs into question. What is the game? What is the end game? What is the end game? What is the immediate objective of this administration? Because I keep repeating, the CABSEC is a functionary of the administration, and the CABSEC will not. I just can't understand it. So we're using this opportunity to make this call, and I'm doing this. I know I'm here as the president of the Trades Union Council, but I'm also at the moment putting on my hat as president of the Caribbean Congress of Labor, because we have put out a press release. We have put out a press release condemning the government and calling for them to immediately rectify the matter. And I'll tell you something, Dr. Bob, just permit me, for you and the listeners. Before we engage in Barbados, we were in the process of putting out a very strong letter. But we pulled back on the letter, and we told the PM, look, we are going to pull back on the letter once you give that commitment to intervene, right? Because, what is to be done? And therefore, we did not. But after the engagement, and as I said, the release from the government, what is called a press release for the Public Workers Union. I don't know where the state or the CABSEC or anyone gets the authority to put out a press release for the union. Once that went out, and it still makes a conditionality as part of the process, because he says as part of the process of implementing the new structure, this is what is required. And what is required is for you to say yes or no, for you to tell us whether to do it or not. Because the question would arise, what if they are able to get, based on those who respond, a number of them to say no? Are you following me?
That's the question I have for Mr. Grimes as well, and I'm going to bring him back here because go ahead, Andre, finish your train of thought, and we will pick up on this.
In other words,
yes.
So that is why we immediately, that's why the Caribbean Congress of Labour immediately then sent out that press release through the region, so that there can be the direct intervention again to ensure that this matter is resolved and to make the necessary deductions. As a matter of fact, if the deductions were made and the holding of the union Jews were deducted as far as I learned, right? Withholding of the union Jews, as I said in another space, had it been in the agricultural sector, we would have been speaking about pretty larceny. You can't take people's property that is designed for someone else and hold it. The law says that section 43(4) of the Employment Labor Relations Act, that union dues and service contribution deducted shall be submitted or remitted within 15 days. Within 15 days, that's what the law says. So why is the state, why are they violating the laws?
Yes, Mr. Graham. So let us on background here. Many viewers in the comments seem to suggest, at least some of them are, I don't know if they're union members, some of them are anonymous contributors, but it talk about the genesis, and when I say the genesis here, yes, you gave on background the fact that there were not fee increases for a long time, and that this was meant to necessitate the current conditions. But can you talk to us about the process by which the union came to that conclusion that a fee increase was needed in respect of consultations with the rank and file of the union? When I say process here, that's what I'm speaking to. Consultation with rank and file members of the union. What did that look like in this process?
Right. So thanks for the question, Dr. Bob. So as I stated earlier, in terms of the necessity for the fee increases based on the mortgage, based on the fact that we have to ensure that our staff, our hardworking staff, is well paid and everything, this initiative, this resolution came about. Right, that background is well understood by the members generally, and specifically those who attended the AGM. So what it is really,
was that not wanting to, and I just want to get again to put more context in this. That AGM was held when?
The 28th of March, 2024.
The 28th of March, and that was a meeting where all members obviously, yes, came together. All right, go ahead, sir.
Yes. So the Article 8 of our Constitution, we are not a fly-by-night organization, Dr. Bob. As I stated, we are 94 years old. So we have bylaws or a constitution that guides our activities or operations, right? And it clearly states within our constitution, and as Comrade Andre Lewis referred to, our organization is specifically referred to in the Grenada Constitution under 83:15, and basically the powers of the trade union is also spoken to in section 11 of the Grenada Constitution. Now, specific to the PW Constitution, Article 8 states clearly and categorically that the annual general meeting, the AGM, is the highest decision-making body of the union. Right, and it is there all the issues are discussed around labor, around finances, around our sustainability, and the whole process is we ensured that there was advertisements. There is a layout in terms of the constitution, the PW Constitution, when this is advertised in what medium, newspaper, social media, all these methods, our shop steward arm, so forth, they will ensure that the members are aware. Emails, all mediums possible. So all parties were aware that we are having the AGM. And in Article 7 of the PW Constitution, it speaks to what is a quorum. You are an educator, sir, so you must know if there are 10,000 members in your organization, you more than likely would not expect all 10,000 to show up at an AGM, right? So with our constitution under Article 7, a quorum is 40 members. We had way more than that because we did it in a blended fashion in terms of 21st century operations, which is also enshrined in our constitution. Yes, so there was more than 40 at our AGM. And we had PKF there, that's the auditor, on display, the numbers. Members could ask questions in terms of our finances and so forth, which is customary with trade unions. Comrade Lewis could refer to that also. So members saw all what was going on in the books, and a resolution was brought forward. Not even that time on the day, it was brought forward before by a member. And it was discussed at length, a very strong and rich discussion in terms of how can we better our services? How can we ensure that we stick around to be 100 years? We are 94 now, based on what is going on with our finances. And ultimately, there was practically a unanimous vote to change the due structure, which I want to iterate here was outdated. So the current due structure that we have is on par or even less to some degree than what is the market rate for the other major trade unions, I'm talking about the TAWUs, the GUTs, and so forth. But it's basically on par, right? The resolution had an implementation date of more than 9 months after, which is January of 2025, right? So the word got out, our shop stewards sent the word out to our members, and we officially informed via email to all our members in October of 2024. And we also informed the authorities, right, in November of 2024 via correspondence and emails. And when I say authorities, the Office of the Cabinet, the Ministry of Finance, all the ministries and the finance officers, so they were aware what they had to do for January of 2025. And as is expected, the dues actually were deducted because we had everything, we did our due diligence and everything was in place. However, what came about, because we have to budget, we have to plan. I asked the accounts clerk, look, the dues are supposed to come in. Tell us what the dues are so we can budget for the year 2025. The response was he reached out to finance and they have not submitted it as yet. So I'm thinking that's basically for the new year, right? And you know, the things happen within the public service. Sometimes things can be a bit slow. So that was understood. But and that was in January, when the 17th of February came, the administrative officer said, Brother Grams, there is a correspondence from the office of the cabinet secretary that you may be interested in, right? And when I read it, my brother, I was appalled. Everyone else in the office who read it was taken aback. People were shocked. I mean, in colloquial terms. I shared it obviously with my comrade in TUC in terms of not the actual letter, but the essence of the correspondence, and he too was taken aback. Everybody in the labor movement, when this information was shared, including our secretariat, our staff, was taken aback by this. So we immediately responded to the cabinet secretary's office to really, without any sort of doubt or ambiguity, to speak about the sovereignty of the Grenada Public Workers Union in terms of its internal affairs and the integrity of all our processes at our 94-year-old organization. Yeah. Further discovery would have led me to understand, in terms of interrogating the staff about the dues, that the last time the dues were paid was in November. So literally, our payments for salaries and our operations was basically in jeopardy. It was in jeopardy, right? And so possibly the staff could not have gotten paid based on the accounts that we have, because you must understand the union dues are the lifeblood of any trade union. Despite the other things that we do, little rentals of the conference room and so forth, union dues are the primary income for our trade union. Yes, so basically we looked at this as an attempt to cripple the operations of the Grenada Public Workers Union, and we took it very, very seriously. I contacted our legal counsel. Apart from that, we wrote, the union wrote rather, to Mike Sylvester, Mr. Mike Sylvester. He is the permanent secretary in the Ministry of Finance. We also wrote to the Honorable Dennis Cornwall, the Minister of Finance, copied the Prime Minister, copied the Attorney General, Honorable Claudette Joseph, and we also wrote officially to the Trade Union Council, speaking about the debacle that was in motion with this move from the office of the Cabinet Secretary. I want to go further to agree with Comrade Lewis on this matter, and I want to quote Section 68 of the Grenada Constitution, which I have before me, and it says, "There shall be a secretary to cabinet whose office shall be a public office." And it goes on to say, "The secretary to the cabinet who shall have charge of the cabinet office shall be responsible in accordance with such instructions as may be given to him by the Prime Minister for arranging the business for and keeping the minutes of the cabinet and for conveying the decisions of the cabinet to the appropriate person or authority, and shall have such other functions as the Prime Minister may direct." So we do not want to personalize this. Obviously, if it comes from the office of the Cabinet Secretary, we have to interpret this as being a cabinet decision, which we can say without any hesitation, this is an unprovoked and unprecedented attack on our institution in an attempt to bust our organization. We cannot view it or interpret it in any other way, right? And so I am happy, as I reported in the opening, Comrade Andrew Lewis intervened to the best of his ability to this point to involve the Caribbean Congress of Labor, right? The Caribbean Congress of Labor, where fortunately or providentially, there was the CARICOM heads, and the CCL was there, and they got an opportunity to interact directly with the Prime Minister of our country, Honorable Deacon Mitchell, to speak to this. And based on the secondary information I received, it was stated that this matter would be put to bed, and we will receive our funds. So during that day, Friday, I think that was the 21st, Friday of last week, we received part of the dues. Part of the dues would be January and part of February. December is still unpaid as we speak here right now. And what compounded this matter, after what I thought was good news and solid news that the Prime Minister seemed to have distanced himself from this, and it may have been some sort of mix-up, we subsequently saw a press release coming from the office of the Cabinet Secretary speaking to a poll again, right? So there is conditionality to the.
So it seems as though it would be conditioned on the increase would be conditioned on whether or not the members agree or disagree. Now, is that the role of the Cabinet Secretary to make that determination?
Well, I just categorically spoke to you on what the role of the CABSEC is. This is total infringement. This is an attack on the Grenada Public Workers Union, and by extension, an attack on the trade union movement in Grenada and the region on a whole. So as we speak, people within the region have their eyes on this matter, not just CCL, the Caribbean Public Service Association, for which our organization is a part, is having keen eyes on this particular development. Hopefully it can end peacefully, but it has potential to become very explosive and a very confrontational issue.
Well, we like to say here on the Bub Report, and we have a lot of comments. Unfortunately, we do have to get to the next segment. We really have to get to the next segment. I usually take comments, but I also want to respect people's time. I'll go over to you, Senator Lewis, for some closing comments as we wrap up this segment, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. And just want to use that opportunity to call on all workers in Grenada, the Caribbean region, and over the world to continue to recognize the importance of trade unions and to continue to, especially in this period where we have big business apparently running the world most powerful economy, the Elon Musk of this world. And these things have a way of trickling down in the Caribbean region. And the unions are now needed more so than ever, as has been recognized in the United States, where people have just been sent home, fired, dismissed left, right, and center. And any employer, and especially the government, that seeks to deny trade unions their finances could be interpreted as an attempt to weaken the movement and to destroy the movement. And I am seeing this beyond just the cabinet secretary, because it is a function of the government. And I mean, it is, how does a government ask a trade union, a reputable trade union, a trade union that is almost 100 years old, that has its own internal constitution and operations, to give them, the government, a report of the audit annual general meeting of 2024, the attendance register? You know, you are now so you want to know who attended the meeting? What if these are now designed to take action against workers who are seen as being close to the union? Because some employers would like to do that. And then evidence of consultation held. I mean, this is unheard of. I know Grenada is known for a lot of firsts. We have had the first revolution in an English-speaking Caribbean, right? We have just had a number of firsts, but this one is a first that the labor movement does not want to be identified with. And the sooner that matter is resolved and put to bed, put to rest with the necessary announcements from the government that the authority of the Public Workers Union is being respected and this matter has been resolved, whatever explanation that they want to give for what took place, it will be better for all of us, because it has now caused us in Grenada and the region to be examined more closely, the landscape, the industrial relations landscape that is unfolding in Grenada. And I find it very interesting, very instructive that the Minister for Labor didn't refer you to the Cabinet Secretary. And that's what I'm telling my comrades. I don't know why we are singling on the Cabinet Secretary, but you're referred to the Office of the Prime Minister. Because that is the office that is responsible for the CABSEC. I raise that case there and to wish everyone all the very best. And to you, Dr. Bob, thank you for this platform as we continue in the service of the working class people.
Yes. And of course, Mr. Grimes, this might be your last time here in your capacity as president of the Public Workers Union. Of course, you've never shied away from coming on this program. You know, we have an election coming up. Are you going to use this opportunity to endorse any of the candidates? Or is that not a best practice in the union? I mean, I'm seeing people endorsing Orlando Romain, the public relations officer of the NDC, endorsing one of the members. I saw another commentator from the NNP endorsing another member. And I'm wondering what's that about? How have we come to the place where trade unionism in Grenada is now an NNP versus NDC thing? In my days in the union, as a member of TAU, that was never a thing. It was never the case.
That's true.
So I honestly, as
Dr. Bob, I'm glad you make that point.
As someone who is a trade unionist, I am a trade unionist in my faculty union here in the state of Maryland, and we just passed the state. There is a resolution that's going to the state to enshrine trade unionism in the constitution of the state, owing to what Washington is trying to do, bus unions. I've never seen this, where political organizations, surrogates for political organizations, are endorsing candidates in a trade union election. Mr. Lewis, go ahead. You wanted to add something.
No, I wanted to say, it is good that you made that observation, because you have been in the trenches with us in Tau, with the many battles that we had over the years that you were there. And more than that, you were there when there were heated national battles with the labor movement, including battles against the state, battles against the government as an employer. And we have not seen that happen. And I'm glad you mentioned that, right? Given your wealth of experience, I mean, we have been on the ground, so we know. But from someone as a journalist with you, thanks for bringing that out.
Yeah. All right, Mr. Grimes, go ahead, sir.
Yes. So thanks for that. I'm always extremely elated to be on your program. I'm a fan of your program. I enjoy the discourse, and after my segment is over, I want to hear what the other panelists have to say on the respective topics. So you brought up PW elections. I did not make it a secret in terms of who I wish my successor to be, and that is Sister Daisy Hazard, who is an exemplary member of our executive and who has more than enough talent to be and capacity to lead this, venerable organization. It's some serious things happening out here, Dr. Bob, because what I have seen is that there are people, and I enjoy the democracy. I enjoy challenges. I enjoy the election process and the participation. That bodes well for our organization, for the PWU. But then when you have individuals who are contesting, they don't come to AGMs, they don't come to May Day, they don't attend social events, any social gathering, nothing union, but then you want to go straight to the top at the helm. And then your programmatic platform is on reducing the dues, which essentially will shorten the life of the union. It is dangerous. So I had to endorse Daisy's team, which I believe I worked with all the actors and all the people involved, and they are fantastic, high integrity people, and they will protect the interests of the union going forward. What we are seeing here in Grenada is a corporatization of governance, in my humble view, where based on what I'm seeing, I can only speak to the evidence before me, that there is an attack on the institution of union, which basically is an attack on the working class. And I don't want to politicize things, because my job and my record would show as I exit the stage that irrespective of which political party is in government, I just ensure that I do the work of the union, represent the workers' interests to the best of my ability, and ensure that bread and butter issues and development of the workers is at the forefront, not green or yellow. Yeah. So these are very, very interesting times.
Or orange.
Yeah. Orange. Yes. I see George Wom, my good friend George Wom, has pegged me as a potential candidate on the orange team. But it is what it is. A lot of things are being said, but I have felt honored to have represented workers at the highest level and to have worked along with comrades like Andre Lewis. And it's time for me to exit. And hopefully I am confident in the collective intelligence of the public service that they would make the right decision and they would be on the right side of history and understand what is going on here. There are efforts by some influencers to bring derision within the ranks of the Grenada Public Workers Union and turn the members against the leadership of the union. But the public officers, they are intelligent. We have seen the stages and we are the apex of it right now. But I think the eyes have opened to what is afoot and the right decisions will be made. So again, thank you for the platform, and to your viewers and listeners, I hope that you enjoy the rest of the program and have a great Sunday.